Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Three Strangers podcast. I am your host, Ryan.
I'm Nick.
I'm Bill.
And we are here with our second part to the Studio Ghibli discussion. Last time, we talked a lot about our opinions about the movies and did a really quick overview. Today, we brought on a guest. We are ready to talk about the history of Ghibli. We have brought on someone who is very knowledgeable on the subject of Ghibli, of anime, of Travis Scott. Please welcome Craig.
Howdy. Hi, I'm Craig. Yeah, I do. I have a lot of knowledge about a lot of general things, Ghibli and Travis Scott, and anime in general. So, you know.
I gotta say, Craig, I was thinking about you yesterday because I had to defend Rodeo to a group of haters. And like, easiest thing to defend in the world.
10 out of 10.
But I literally was like, oh god, if Craig was here right now, he'd be able to so better articulate, my points. I was like, excuse me,
All right, when we do an episode on like on the Travis Scott film, call me for that one too.
We got you. We'll talk about Travis Scott. We'll talk about him in Fortnite, the movie.
Of course.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Good
idea. We got a lot there.
Yeah, now we just need Travis Scott in a Ghibli film. So today we're here to talk about the history of Ghibli. We're going to kind of talk maybe a little bit more about some of our opinions that we talked about last time. We might skip a few movies that maybe we talked a lot about either last time or on in terms of the timeline, not as important to the overall studio. And that's why we have Craig here to kind of guide us through our entire journey. So Craig, you could jump off at any point of our Ghibli timeline. Where do you want to begin?
Oh, that's a great question. So I think before you even get like anywhere near Ghibli, and arguably, Ghibli really did not start until I think it's the 80s. Even Nausicaä isn't technically considered Ghibli, I believe. But so let's start well before that in the 70s and the late 60s. With two of the studio's kind of main people, Hayao Miyazaki and Isao Takahata, rest in peace. So Hayao Miyazaki, Isao Takahata, they were young animators when anime really started. Anime kind of popped off in the late 50s, early 60s with Osamu Tezuka, Astro Boy, Mushi Productions. I don't want to get too into that. But so, around that time you had some rival studios. You had Toei Animation, which is still quite famous to this day. They make Dragon Ball, One Piece.
Let's go.
Big stuff, global smashes. But, they were kind of doing, what everyone else was doing at the time. But I want to talk about Nippon Animation. That was a studio from the 70s that really became famous for its series called World Masterpiece Theater, which was essentially taking children's books and making them into anime. And that's really where Miyazaki and Takahata kind of hit their stride, directing and writing for a number of these kids' shows adapting stories like Tom Sawyer, Swiss Girl, whatever her name is, Heidi, Anne of Green Gables is arguably, their most popular show, as well as Romeo, things like that. I mean, these are like generational anime that, while people today are not necessarily talking about, it's like if you go ask people our parents' age that grew up in Japan, they're still talking about it. And some of those shows are still being remade to this day. I mean, Anne of Green Gables got a remake just this year. So the two of them essentially built a reputation on these picturesque storybook adaptations. And I think you really see that kind of in their films. It makes sense. You're like, oh, I see. They were literally working on children's books, turning that into anime.
It definitely makes sense that, like, oh, we suddenly we have a whole studio of kids being the main protagonists in every film.
Exactly. And, just the background art, you very much see that style traced back to TV animation. And then, you see their breakout shows also, like Miyazaki had Future Boy Conan, which I don't remember if that was World Masterpiece Theater. I think it was. And then once you're getting into the late 70s, I want to talk about Miyazaki's first debut film, which before Nausicaa was actually Lupin III, Castle of Cagliostro, which, if you're not familiar with Lupin, Lupin was a 60s manga, 70s anime from TMS. It is still going to this day. It's been on for 50 years, on and off. I mean, it's kind of like Scooby-Doo of Japan. A little different, but it's kind of the same dynamic. You have a ragtag team of like 5 people, and they get into all these wacky hijinks. You know, it's more adult than Scooby-Doo, but it's you know, a fun time. And I think Bill has seen Lupin, and he can attest to it. But, you know, Castle of Cagliostro is very much a Miyazaki movie. Even if you don't realize it at first. You know, you get the storybook, picturesque backgrounds, you get the kind of sense of humor, and of course it's just masterfully storyboarded and written and directed. I mean, you know, it's a good time, and I think it's kind of something any Ghibli fan should probably watch at some point. I mean, Bill, any thoughts?
Yeah, like, honestly, it's, like, really interesting because, like, I don't know if my experience was especially unique in this. I knew about, like, you know, when I was, like, trying to hit all, like, the big, like, oh, these are, like, animated, you know, like, anime classics, things like Akira, things like Perfect Blue, that was one of them, and I was like, that's sort of strange. I know Lupin as, like, a media franchise, why is this one so, like, you know, like, just so regarded, right? And I didn't make the connection until I started getting into Ghibli, that I'm like, oh, this was a rather early project of Miyazaki's. Yeah, and it's great. You guys would really like it. It is interesting because I feel like a lot of Ghibli products that we'll see, you know, under the auspices of Miyazaki are all these sort of original stories a lot of the times, and it was kind of interesting to see him be like, all right, well, you know, Lupin is an established character. You are, you know, that's really funny, Craig. I never thought of it exactly as, you know, Scooby-Doo, but you're quite right. It's Scooby-Doo with guns, maybe.
Yes, it's Scooby-Doo with guns, violence, drugs, sex.
I was like, oh, that.
Yeah, I mean, they're
violence.
Yeah.
It's like, it's adult Scooby-Doo. I mean, people fucking die. Do you guys curse? Am I allowed to curse? Or
You can
curse.
Are allowed to curse.
Okay.
You can curse.
Yeah.
cool? You know, it's Scooby-Doo, but for like teenagers, kind of.
Right. It is fantastic. You guys should see it. And honestly, thank you for mentioning it, Craig. It's important, you know, to the story we're trying to tell here.
So I saw discourse about it. I wasn't able to watch it, but I still like looked up about it. I didn't spoil it for myself because I do want to watch it. But I saw people saying that they think it's Miyazaki's best work. Do you agree with that?
No. You know, I haven't seen it in years, and I haven't seen it since I kind of learned more about it. It was the first or second Lupin thing I've ever seen. I've since watched the full original 71 series, and I love it. I've watched some of the spin-off films. You know, I have a greater appreciation for that. And also at the time, I wasn't as big a Ghibli Miyazaki fan. So now that I've seen all of the Ghibli works and have much more of appreciation for that, you know, I want to watch it with fresh eyes, and I probably would enjoy it quite a bit more. But in terms of Miyazaki's best work, I mean, I think my favorite is probably Castle in the Sky, but I don't know, Ponyo's up there. I don't know if it's topping. Oh, even Wind Rises, I don't think it's topping any of those 3.
It's interesting that you bring up Castle in the Sky. People saying that Lupin 3 is his greatest work, and then you bring up Castle in the Sky, the first, or noted as the first Ghibli film, not too far from the stretches of Lupin 3's, or what I'm thinking about is there's this origin, right, where people say like, oh, Lupin 3 is kind of the origin here, is what we've been saying. And then Castle in the Sky is the origin for Studio Ghibli. So how do you differentiate Castle in the Sky with Lupin 3 as far as just the development of Miyazaki?
I mean, I think there's definitely that through line there, and I think Nausicaa is the good bridge between the two. I mean, so Lupin is based on a manga originally, you know, and then it was a TV show and films, you know, whatnot, total media franchise. And then Nausicaa is an adaptation of Miyazaki's own manga, which I think is really cool. And it's very, very, very rare that anime are directed by their own mangaka. I mean, the only ones I can think of are Nausicaa and Akira, directed by Otomo. So it really doesn't happen. Now, I'm trying to recall whether Castle in the Sky is actually based on anything or not. I think it's a total original, and it really does feel like you can see that through line between the prior two films. It's very, mechanical focused. There's a lot of kind of like the trademark Miyazaki kind of vehicles and backgrounds, like in these mechanical settings. I'm trying to it's not steampunk. It's not really punk, but it's mechanical is what I would describe it as. And you're seeing that there. There's all the airships. I mean, the castle itself. You got the what are they called? Like the group of bandits. They're like flying machines, whatever. Like stylistically and aesthetically, it's carrying through. And I think you're getting kind of that, Lupin silliness mixed with Nausicaa's seriousness at times. So I think it's a good hybrid of the two that kind of blends his two sides together.
Yeah, it seems like it sets the groundwork for what we're going to see in the rest of Ghibli.
Yeah.
And I know there's a whole conversation that we need to have about the aeronautics of so many of the films, but also the subtext of the fight against nature and the extent to which we can explore that as humans. Castle in the Sky, I think, really captures both of those themes quite well immediately into the Studio Ghibli franchise.
Yeah. I mentioned this a little bit on the other pod, but for some reason in my head, when I first watched Castle in the Sky, I really thought that it was just going to be like a pretty straight fantasy story. I didn't know that it was going to be like all this, like, concern itself with so much, like, like things like automatons, and that the Castle in the Sky was like a scientific thing more than it was like a fantasy world or like something like far removed from like thing. It's pretty interesting because I'm gonna say as a general thing, more or less Ghibli sticks with a lot of that stuff. Maybe My Neighbor Totoro is a notable not example of what I'm talking about, where that is pretty pure fantasy, but Miyazaki's pretty interested in keeping things somewhat grounded, or the ordinary made extraordinary. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of integral to Miyazaki's style and the studio's distinct style as well, because you really see different visions from different directors. Whereas Miyazaki kind of has this magical realism and his nature versus technology themes. Whereas Takahata has such a distinct style, and his really are much more, I guess, real life, and not as whimsical, not as fantastical. And even like with Kaguya, when he is diving into more a fictionalized, fantastical setting, it is much more grounded in emotion and, kind of draws upon the actual ancient tale of Kaguya. And is kind of an updated version of that, which I think is cool.
Kaguya is amazing, and sorry, I know of course you've seen it, Craig. You've seen it, Ryan?
Oh yeah, I've watched all of them.
You watched all of them, right?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Kaguya.
So
yeah, it slaps.
It's only Nick that hasn't seen Kaguya. I think it's time to punish him in some way. Let's say I won't dwell on it. I won't dwell on it. But Nick, it's definitely worth your time. No surprise with Takahata behind the helm, but yeah, wow, great film.
Yeah, and his final film too. Unfortunately, and I think the ending of Kaguya is kind of controversial in that it pretty strictly adapts the ending of the original tale, which feels very odd and maybe not the most satisfying in a lot of ways. And I think it unfortunately kind of captures Takahata's legacy, where it's a bittersweet ending. So, he's unfortunately passed away, with a legendary legacy.
Yeah.
Greg, what would you say, speaking of controversy, what do you think would be Studio Ghibli's most controversial film? Most
controversial? I mean, I think probably any of Goro's. I think, Earthsea is just kind of all over the place, but not necessarily in a controversial way. I think the easy answer is Earwig and the Witch, just because it's CG, and it was kind of a TV, made for TV kind of special film. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's, even good as a stretch, but I don't think it's terrible. I mean, honestly, I think Boy and the Heron is arguably their most controversial, especially coming from Miyazaki, where, he's kind of known as, especially like people our age, things like Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke, Howl's Moving Castle, Kiki, like Totoro, those were kind of, people our age were exposed to those things when they were young. And they're arguably kind of pretty easy to understand at a surface level, and there's more when you get deeper. Whereas I think Boy and the Heron is, there's a lot going on there, and there's a lot that even I haven't unpacked myself, and I kind of walked away from it the first time a little confused. So I think it's probably his most sophisticated film, or at least, deserves the most thought and attention, and for that reason people didn't necessarily like it the way that they did other ones. So that's, I don't know, I think that's probably my answer.
A very laid out answer. I think, I don't know if this is significant or not, but if I'm looking at the dates, I mean, Boy and the Heron is the first Ghibli after pandemic, right? It's a resurgence.
Yeah. I think was Earwig was this, what, 2020?
Earwig was 2020,
Yeah.
so it was during, so already going to be controversial timing.
Right.
Boy and the Heron, I felt, was almost a revamp of Ghibli, kind of this illusion of a revamp of Ghibli, when in reality, obviously we all know, it was a closing chapter that took a while to get there.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it a closing chapter. I mean, I don't think the studio's going anywhere. Miyazaki can say it's his retirement project, but he keeps, he's the kind of guy that's not going to stop if he has something to say. And, Wind Rises, I think, at the time, everyone was like, this is it. This is his swan song. I mean, that's certainly a film about him. I think it's got a lot of parallels to Oppenheimer. I think it's, I think that's kind of how I see it. And, the story in Wind Rises is about this guy who's obsessed with perfecting planes and perfecting his craft and perfecting his art, and then the devastation it causes. I mean, I think Miyazaki sees himself in that in a lot of ways. Just look at what the anime industry has become, following his pursuit of trying to put out the best art that he can, and how the industry has changed so much, I think in detrimental ways, unfortunately, in some regards.
It's interesting that you bring up The Wind Rises, Craig, because that actually might be my pick due to some things surrounding the film that made it pretty controversial at the time.
What was that?
Obviously, there is a lot of pretty central to the plot is the development of the Zero, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that came at a weird time, and I'm not going to pretend to understand the exact political circumstances around it, but basically in World War II, the United States, once we had defeated Japan through the use of the atomic bomb, by the way, we kind of set up a proto, we're kind of running Japan. Right? And a lot of things were passed during that time, including hey, just so this never happens again, we're making it so that Japan can't have a military, they're just going to have a defense force, right?
I mean, some argue that that's still the same thing, and there's still controversies.
Exactly, right? But it was this whole thing that apparently The Wind Rises came at a weird time for Japan politically, because that whole hey, Japan, you're not allowed to have a military anymore had ended. Right. And so they were working out in their parliament hey, are we gonna rise again? And sorry, I'm not, there's a lot to that, but
right. I think you kind of see the same, it was the same thing with Oppenheimer too. A lot of people kind of were like, hey, this film is tone deaf. It's glorifying war, and it's, celebrating World War II and the atomic bomb, and, sometimes you just got to slap the audience and be like, are we watching the same goddamn movie?
Yeah.
Like, just because it touches on controversial subject and maybe timing isn't great, like, it doesn't mean you're endorsing these things. I mean, I think Oppenheimer and Wind Rises are both pretty blatantly anti-war and are, slapping the audience in the face saying, hey, this is bad.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So,
Story of the world, to quote Oppenheimer,
Sorry.
isn't supposed to be a good thing.
Sorry.
No, but
that should
people...
be obvious.
Yeah.
Media literacy these days, I think maybe it's a good... Oppenheimer's a good example of it. And also Barbie. It was a very duality of media literacy between Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, Barbie's it's woke or it's anti-woke.
Yeah.
I don't know what people were saying, but
Sorry. Oppenheimer literally has a panic attack. Like realizing his one of my
like
done?
Puss in Boots.
Okay,
great. Realistic depiction of panic attack.
Number 50, but but yeah, it does make you wonder about media literacy with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I like we've just were like saying we've talked about a lot that we feel like media literacy has just gone downhill as the years have gone on.
Yeah, for sure, and I think like Boy and the Heron is kind of exemplifies that. Again, I haven't fully unpacked it. I should rewatch it, but I think people are afraid to interact with art that is challenging and not always the most straightforward. And I think Ghibli, I think in hindsight, has a lot of films that are easy to digest now, but a lot of what they were doing was new back in the day. They weren't always the household name.
What do you, if we're not talking about The Boy and the Heron, obviously, because I think The Boy and the Heron contains a lot, but if we're thinking pre-Boy and the Heron, what would you guys say is the maybe hardest to understand, or just one that takes more thought than face value?
That's a good question.
I'm gonna advocate and sorry to jump in. If anybody has a better idea, definitely take the mic. I've always felt that Howl's has quite a bit going on. I've always felt that House. Maybe not that it's difficult to understand or that it's like a thing, but it's like I actually was left the first time I watched House. I'm like, that was really good, but what was this about? Like
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So.
I haven't seen Howl's in quite a number of years, and I think I enjoyed it at the time because I was quite younger, but I think if I rewatched it now, I might like it less. I think it's kind of a little bit all over the place, structurally speaking, but, maybe I would get more out of it now.
I agree. The probably the biggest problem with Howl's is its pacing, and it's, it's a little disjointed on the story side. I mean, I feel like the visuals are never a problem in any Ghibli movie, but I feel like a lot of the times where you're going to struggle the most is with just like, if things are, taking more time than you think they should take. This is something we discussed a little bit in our previous episode with like, Ghibli is interesting in that some movies they make feel like they're really made for kids, to be watched by kids. Some really do not feel like that at all. A Grave of the Fireflies being a really good example.
For sure.
Yeah.
I also, but this is actually pretty funny, and I don't want to, make this like, like we're like jumping around too much. I think it's kind of fun though. What? Porco Rosso.
I like Porco Rosso.
One of my personal favorites. I'm gonna come out and say.
Same.
Made for like families? Question mark. I don't really know. I don't know.
My thing with Porco Rosso is I had a really hard time not thinking about One Piece.
In a big ocean.
Yeah.
Big ocean.
Yeah. The pirates, the dog fights. I mean, sure, there's whatever. It's ships in One Piece mainly, but I mean, I liked it. I enjoyed it. But I think with that kind of question, I would ask the same. Like, well, is One Piece meant for kids or adults or families?
One Piece is meant for children. I mean, I think that's especially as it's gone on. I'm in the middle of Dressrosa right now. I've been watching One Piece for goddamn years at this point, and like Dressrosa was airing when I started watching One Piece, and I think over time it has. Like, I still enjoy it quite a bit. I think over time it has certainly gotten more infantilized, unfortunately, as I think a lot of, media has. Whereas Porco Rosso definitely feels like it's, I think an older crowd would probably enjoy it more now.
Porco Rosso is just so much fun. I mean,
Yeah.
It is. It's fun.
Throughout it, even when there isn't like a dog fight happening, just like him with, rebuilding the plane. That's all super interesting.
It's a really good scene, by the way. Sorry, I recently double featured. I think I told you guys, but I double featured Porco Rosso into the first time ever watching Boy and the Heron. I'm gonna say I think that was a mistake.
Yeah, they're very different.
Yeah,
That's quite different.
That's not a double feature. That is seamless. And I'm gonna say I was pretty critical of Boy and the Heron when we talked about it last time. I think I maybe owe it a rewatch because Porco Rosso is pretty straightforward. I don't really have questions really ever, and that's not a bad thing, right? I have a lot of questions with Boy and the Heron, both meta and not, if that makes sense. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never think it's a bad thing to revisit, movies that we think maybe our views have changed on it. I mean, I said last time, I still stick by this. I think there's only 3 not great Studio Ghibli movies, and
are they all
the others
ones?
are either good to better. My bad ones are Earwig,
Yeah.
Earthsea,
Yeah.
Ocean Waves.
Yeah, that's fair. Those are probably.
where
Those
you're
are probably
wrong.
the 3 worst.
No.
That's probably where I'm at. I mean, I would throw I wouldn't call all of them great. I think there are some good. I think there's like some meh. I mean, I know we really disagree on not Poppy Hill.
Whisper.
Anthem. Yeah, Whisper the Heart. I wasn't really sold on it when I saw it, but I mean, I like Cat Returns quite a bit.
I also like
but
Cat
you like
Returns.
Cat Returns.
Cat Returns is fun.
Very different reasons, and I think it's Cat Returns is like good, but nothing crazy. But I don't know. I mean, I think like what I wanted to say was what was maybe the original controversial one, and we haven't talked about it at all. Is like Pom Poko. I think is an underrated one, especially like our generation. I think kind of people talk about it as like the silly raccoon one, and then you watch it and you're like, holy shit, this isn't silly.
There's a lot of
This is
depth in
dark.
that one that they talk about. You're like, oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that's a banging one, and I think that one I could see people getting confused by it on an initial watch.
This is really interesting because I'd actually we glazed over that pretty quick in our last thing. So, do you want to speak a bit more to Pom Poko, Craig?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember the details. They're a little fuzzy to me. Watched it a few months ago. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and I think it's Takahata really likes war, and he really likes character writing and character-driven stories, and you see a lot of that in there, and you kind of, seeing... It's interesting how much time passed between Grave of the Fireflies and this film. I mean, he had, he had Only Yesterday in between, which is a very different kind of movie. And then Pom Poko, which is very... That was kind of his first foray into fantastical rather than a more straight drama. And then the fact that he follows it up with Yamada's, I think, is really funny, which I think is also another really underrated film. I mean, that one's crazy, I think, in its own right.
Something I want to throw in here is that Pom Poko was Japan's submission for the 67th Academy Awards for Best Foreign Language Film.
Good.
And it wasn't accepted as even a nominee.
Whoa.
No, of course not. Yeah, I mean, the Oscars hate anime. I mean, the only time it's won was Spirited Away, and I think that's because of how big of a success it was here.
Right.
Yeah, and we even mentioned last time, like, we kind of went through some of the, 2010s even, where maybe it wasn't seen as, the studio's best era. But looking at what won for Best Animated for someone, we were like, the Ghibli movie is so much better than what actually won.
Yeah, I mean, 2010s was definitely not their best decade, but, Wind Rises is, probably better than whatever whatever won that year.
I kind of want to talk a little bit about something you brought up, Craig. Ghibli's kind of strange, both leaning into and leaning out of the concept of war. I know Miyazaki has stated, I believe he was born right at the end of World War, and he stated how some of his like earliest memories are like from that rebuilding phase. And that it's sort of like, it's weird because you're kind of born into this like situation where like, you know, a great like tragedy, like, you know, this is a weird kind of sidebar thing, but if you guys have not seen Godzilla -1,
Oh hell yeah.
Awesome. Yes, it's so good, and it has such a earnest, and like, it's really weird because anyone that's a Godzilla fan will tell you that the human drama is always second, right? In Godzilla -1, it's like a human drama story. Oh, and Godzilla's also here. You know, it's odd. It's like a little odd. And they go very deep into kind of like how like, yeah, you'll basically, you know, depending on your circumstances, nobody's life was great in Japan, like after World War II. So that's sort of the framing that Miyazaki wants to bring to a lot of, you know, I feel like a lot of his films kind of have that kind of vibe. I will say something that doesn't make any sense to me at all, though. He said Howl's Moving Castle is about the Iraq War. I don't know.
I don't think that's true.
Well, he 100%. Sorry, he did 100% say that. Right?
Oh, he did?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it does not come across.
Yeah.
All.
Like, what are you talking about? You know?
Yeah, it's like the meme, like the what is Unc yapping about?
I'm struggling. Like, I'm even like be like, okay, if I give like as many concise as possible, like, does it still work? And like, it's not. I don't like. Sorry. Iraq war comparisons would not break my top 20 things. You know.
I mean, everything in the 2000s was an Iraq war comparison. You know, unfortunately, I think it was very defining event for a lot of people around the world. So yeah, everything was talking about fucking Iraq.
Yeah, I mean, even was it American Sniper, who I believe did win the Oscar the year it came out.
Yeah, fuck that.
Oh, goddamn! Are you serious?
I remember going to see that in theaters. I remember seeing that in theaters.
Dude.
He wasn't he like shooting people during like Katrina or something?
What?
Yeah, I think people were like trying to come to his house for like safety during the flooding, and he was like shooting people. Like, don't come loot my house. Yeah, that guy sucks.
That sounds real. That sounds possible. Yeah. That is
the guy in the movie you're saying, or Bradley Cooper?
The real person.
No, the American Cooper.
Bad PR.
No, yeah.
Me spreading misinformation about Bradley Cooper.
No, Bradley Cooper is just you know, making Jew-face movies for some reason.
That is a pretty bad one to see in theaters, Ryan. My really embarrassing one, not to sidebar Ghibli too much, but I saw the Mark Wahlberg Boston bombing. Marathon bombing.
Oh.
I saw that with a few friends just because it was like literally like, hey, we got nothing to do this afternoon, want to go see a movie, and it looked like the best thing. It was horrible. It's like really like Boston people, like almost like revenge fantasy movie. It's very strange. It's very tough.
I think we can tie that back into Ghibli because it shows the dichotomy in a lot of the media. You know, you get shit like American Sniper, and you get, you know, this Boston bombing movie where the takeaway is very pro-America, pro-nationalistic. I mean, you know, again, like, Boston bombing is a tragedy. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But, you know, I think with Ghibli, you see very reflective films of, I mean, you know, I don't think any of their films glorified Japan during the war, but also take a very different approach to the suffering that they had. Whereas, yeah, like, these American films are very nationalistic, whereas, you know, Grave of the Fireflies is very depressing, and it's not necessarily a celebration of nationalism, but more kind of demonstrating how nationalism kind of led to World War II and the unfortunate effects that World War II had on the common people, and how they were suffering and the tragedy that unfolded.
Yeah,
internally.
Yeah, I feel like there's this unfortunate circumstance where you get these two. You get a war film like that, and it comes across either two ways. It comes across as a victimization, or it comes across as just the reality you had just touched on. And I do think a lot of Miyazaki and just a lot of Studio Ghibli in general is that bluntness of like, no, this is how it is. This is reality. And I think about like right away, like Spirited Away. This is overconsumption in the modern world. This is greed in the modern world. Like that is what it looks like. And I'm always interested to see if people pick up on that in Spirited Away. It kind of like filters out, the literacy from me a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Spirited Away is... that's one I want to rewatch. I like it quite a bit. I don't think I like it as much as a lot of other people do. I think, its fantastical elements overshadow a little bit of, I think, of its heart sometimes. And again, it's kind of like, I came away watching it and I'm like, I really enjoyed that. And there's certainly something going on there, but I still can't quite put my finger on what it's about.
Yeah. I think there's like some like Ghibli movies that I wish like I had seen as a kid. Spirited Away seems like one of like the best candidates for that.
Yeah, agreed.
It's like literally like a story, like sort of like, I think we've all experienced that kind of like vulnerability, where it's like, maybe there's like a situation where you can't rely on your parents, and like, like as a kid and you had to like figure things out on your own. I think that's a great zone for Ghibli to explore. I do agree though that like the fantastical elements of it kept me thinking and kind of knowing in the back of my head, yeah, like this is all gonna work out,
Yeah.
Like I wasn't ever really feeling the peril for the main girl in that movie. I forgot her name. Apologies.
Is it Chihiro?
I think you're absolutely right. I think it is Chi something. If it's not Chihiro.
Yeah, it's Chihiro.
Chihiro. Wow.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, the first half is so different. Also, nice pull, Craig.
Yeah. Jesus.
Yeah, I think the first half of Spirited Away is classic Miyazaki. Right? Because yeah. Classic Miyazaki saying statements about greed and corporate modernism. But then, yeah, I agree. Just wanted to say in the second half, it kind of falls apart because you realize, like, oh, okay, we're just going to kind of go along with the story that's set up, and it's going to go from there. Whereas what do you think has the most... I'm sure we all have different answers. What is the most profound opinion in all of Studio Ghibli, and what movie does it come from?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, we talked about Wind Rises quite a bit, and I don't, War is Bad is not necessarily a profound opinion and kind of similar with Grave of the Fireflies, but I think, the kind of Oppenheimer-esque approach to it I really enjoy. I think that's what makes it stand out quite a bit, is just showing, and kind of the reflection of Miyazaki as well, I think is interesting, whereas he's kind of painting himself in his own way. Interestingly, I don't know if you guys were aware, for the Japanese language version, the main character is portrayed by Hideaki Anno, who, if you guys are unaware, is the creator of Evangelion.
Recognize that,
really?
Yeah, so I think, again, it's that same, I think Anno is that same kind of archetype, too, where he's like, Jesus Christ, look, what have I done? I was trying to perfect my art and, look at all the copycats of Evangelion and all the people that misunderstand it and, how the mecha genre and anime in general has been, like, kind of butchered and trying to chase it. It's kind of... I think it's interesting, and there's a lot of meta context on that in just the casting decision itself.
I want to bring up, because we haven't talked about it, in one that has the profound message, Princess Mononoke. Themes of environmentalism, societal diversity, pretty feminist film as well. Coming out in like 1997, I think it is. Mm-hmm. I mean, Craig, tell us a little bit about Princess Mononoke.
Yeah, I enjoy Mononoke. I think it's a very strong film. I mean, I think you kind of hit it. It kind of touches on a lot of Miyazaki's staples, its nature versus technology and science, and you know, what you're sacrificing in order to advance society comes at the cost of nature. I mean, I think to me, a lot of Ghibli's films, and like Mononoke included, like, I don't think their ideas are necessarily that new or even presented that different. I think maybe that's my Ghibli hot take, is that, like, I feel like there hasn't been a Ghibli film I've walked away from where I'm just like, I've never seen this central messaging before, and I've never seen it thematically presented this way before. It really is more the aesthetics and the style and, you know, the character writing, whatever, where I think they stand out. Maybe that's my hot take.
I'm just gonna say as a general statement, Craig, I agree. I think that there is something almost in every Studio Ghibli film that feels a little... Well, sorry, I don't know if you guys, like, know the concept of, like, Aesop's fables. And that a lot of honestly, like, a lot of, like, media can kind of be, like, rendered down into, like, you know, like, stories that have been told through old anthology books, you know, for, like, a really long time. I agree that, you know, there's something interesting you asked, Nick, like, about, like, what do you think, like, the most, like, profound, like, central messaging of Ghibli is, and I'm gonna honestly, like, really, you know, expand this kind of, like, there is something that a lot of Ghibli movies are trying to say, and I think maybe at least in my opinion, I think my vision's a little colored by the recency of the situation between, Miyazaki Sr. Trying to give responsibilities to his son that maybe he wasn't ready for. There is this sort of larger kind of statement that's always being made about, like, generational, like, and, like, family, like that's what I kind of think when I think of Ghibli. Like, I think of, like, almost like maybe not necessarily like a family film, but it concerns itself with family a lot. Obviously, sometimes really obviously in, like, My Neighbors the Yamadas, sometimes maybe not as obviously, like in Howl's Moving Castle, where it's almost like a found family kind of situation. That's kind of a general blanket statement that I've made that I would like you guys to expand upon. You guys do the hard work.
Well, I think a lot of what you were saying goes back to their origins. You know, they were making, back in the 70s, Miyazaki and Takahata were making children's book adaptations. So they're kind of used to, like you said, you know, story like Aesop fables and stuff. They're kind of used to retelling the same stories and putting their spin on it. And, like, their adaptations weren't, you know, experimental. They weren't trying to redefine, you know, everything. They weren't trying to, you know, do like a Madoka Magica take on magical girls. Like, they're not trying to deconstruct it. They're just telling these stories in a way that evokes the most emotion possible. So, you know, I think it all, that history ties through together. And, like, they're not necessarily always trying to reinvent the wheel and not trying to make new emotions, but they're just trying to hit those same emotions over again. And I agree that they really do touch on family. And I think, similarly, family is central to, you know, the children's stories that they were making.
Intrinsic. You could say, yeah. What about you, Ryan? What do you think, like, a profound Ghibli statement? I know you were mentioning environmental themes. Would we agree that Mononoke is the most, well, I guess Nausicaä would technically be the most concerned with environmental themes, although it pervades throughout.
I mean, I think they both are. Yeah. I think Mononoke.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Nausicaä. I think that really comes across towards, like, the middle of the movie, the environmental themes. Also, the ending of Nausicaä is awesome. I love that third act of it. I think it's, comparatively to some of the other Ghibli films, I think it's one of the best third acts that there are. I just kind of wish I was more interested in the beginning of it. Like, the first, like, 35 minutes. Once it really gets started and you start caring more about the central character of the movie and the plight of everything going on, then it gets really interesting. But I think, for me, I love Princess Mononoke. I think throughout, I mean, you go in, you're starting off right into the thick of it. But, and everyone knows. But in Nausicaä, it kind of builds itself up a little bit more. And I don't want to say that's like it's undoing or anything like that, because it's still a very good movie, but I think Princess Mononoke has such beautiful visuals. It has a great story. It knows exactly like how to start, how to pace itself a little bit better than Nausicaä.
I brought up a quote from the pitch of Princess Mononoke. It's a quote of I think it is. Hold on. Yeah, it's a Miyazaki quote, and it's from the pitch. Like you just like kind of pitching the idea what he would describe it as. He said, "There cannot be a happy ending to the fight between the raging gods and humans. However, even in the middle of hatred and killings, there are things worth living for. A wonderful meeting or a beautiful thing can exist. We depict hatred, but it is to depict that there are more important things. We depict a curse to depict the joy of liberation. What we should depict is how the boy understands the girl and the process in which the girl opens her heart to the boy. At the end, spoiler alert, the girl will say to the boy, 'I love you, Ashitaka, but I cannot forgive humans.' Smiling, the boy should say, 'That is fine, live with me.'" I think Princess Mononoke really does capture that environmentalism perspective of the humans are the issue. And again, yeah, I know we've talked about like this isn't an original idea, but I think about like there was this class I once took that was just focusing on like the ecology of national parks, and it was taught by just like walking and studying the ecology inside the national parks. There were multiple national parks. There were 8 of them that we would see and camp at in 3 weeks.
Damn.
And one day when we're out there, it hits me that I think in a lot of ways humans are the invasive ones.
Yeah.
We are the virus. We are the virus.
we are the virus, because we look at what hell it creates when like one species infects an ecological system and completely changes the food web, like whatever, what's it called? Whatever. Any kind of major species that fucks everything up, and suddenly, suddenly it's humans. I think there is a lot of subtext of environmentalism, right, in a lot of Studio Ghibli's works, but I do feel like that is the most blunt one. Would you say? Would you guys say?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's literally it's portraying nature as the divine, while humans are, invasive and essentially like you're fighting God. That's never a fight you want to fight in art. You're always gonna lose.
Always lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also love like the main villain of Princess Mononoke. I think like Lady Eboshi, I think is how you say it, is such an interesting villain to have in the movie.
Why?
Because she has to be like the leader of her town, and she kind of wants to, if I'm remembering this correct, she wants to be like immortal, right? Like she wants some sort of immortality.
Yes.
Because that's why she goes for the spirit's head, to detach the head from like the god that was in the forest. And it's kind of that thing of like how you're saying like an invasive species, right? It's trying to stay alive. It's trying to live. I mean, do you guys remember when there was the whole thing about like South American bees that were coming to the U.S.?
The killer bees.
It was this, this whole entire thing.
I thought they were Japanese.
I
Weren't
think
they
it was
like the Japanese?
Oh, it was Japanese?
Very on theme, yeah.
Oh my god.
Wow. Nice, Ryan.
I connected it, guys.
Yep.
Another controversy to add to the page. Tough, Ryan.
Damn, but still, like this thing of like of trying to live, trying to survive, right, and trying to spread out. I mean, that's what the humans are trying to do. That is what Lady Eboshi is trying to do. Be immortal, trying to get one up over the gods.
It certainly feels like the most spiritual, or one of the most spiritual of the Ghibli films, and it makes me wonder. I don't know. Does anybody know like how spiritual was Miyazaki?
I mean, Japanese religion and culture is certainly quite different from our own. I mean, there's a lot of Buddhism, there's a lot of Shinto. I don't exactly know where Miyazaki lands. I mean, I would venture, based on his films, honestly, you could tell me either. I think there's certainly a lot of Shinto influence. I mean, the idea of these spirits all around us is a Shinto idea, kind of gods for everything. That all comes from Shinto. And, these Buddhism, Shinto, like, they're not kind of religious in the way that Western religious theology is. I mean, they're, Shinto is an abundance of gods, whereas Buddhism doesn't really have a god, and it's much more naturalistic, and it's about the environment and focus on death and rebirth and all sorts of stuff that goes above my head. A lot of stuff about death and I mean, like Bleach, the anime Bleach is very Buddhist. I love Bleach, and I think that's kind of an underrated point of it, is that people don't get the religious symbolism in it, but that's kind of unrelated.
No, you're good.
Big swords.
Yeah. Focus on the action.
Hey. Bleach's action is pretty peak, okay?
Yeah.
It's peak.
But the storytelling.
But the story, I promise.
The characters.
It's kind of funny because, there's like some discussion like over like Ghibli's like and sorry, they are quickly not celebrating 50 years. They've celebrated 40. They've been around a while is the point, right? And I think a lot of people look at we kind of glazed over it, but Tales of Earthsea, which maybe we skipped over it for good reason. This is sort of the first one that where Miyazaki was like, hey, like, I am aging, I'm not going to be around forever. Time to hand off the reins here, right?
Well, it wasn't their first film directed by someone besides him and Takahata.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. What is actually the first film? I need your encyclopedic knowledge, Kurt.
I mean, I'm on Wikipedia right now. The first
Well,
was...
it would be Whisper of the Heart, right? With Yoshifumu Kondo.
Yeah,
Yes.
and Miyazaki, I believe... Let me see, what does it say? I think Miyazaki wrote it. And they were... I mean, Kondo was working on all their films, and they were, like, kind of grooming him to take it over, but he passed away, so...
Right.
Yeah,
and
that was the only
until...
one that he directed.
Yeah, it wasn't until you had The Cat Returns that they had another outside director... and a different writer. I mean, it was either Miyazaki or Takahata writing all of them up to that point, and then you had a completely different writer-director team. And then it was Earthsea was the first one after that in 2006, and that was Goro, who I don't know. Goro was like a complete outsider. Goro, I mean, I think he worked on real film, or I don't even know if he was in the film industry, but he was kind of a total outsider. And just kind of came in and was like, I could do this. And I think Earthsea gets a lot of hate I think there's a lot to dislike about it for sure. I mean, there are some quite impressive cuts in there. I think it is a visually interesting film at points. But, it's a very weak adaptation of the Earthsea novels by Ursula Le Guin.
Mm-hmm.
From my understanding, it's kind of just a mishmash of a bunch, like... what if you made a Lord of the Rings film that combined parts of just the Fellowship with parts of, the Return of the King?
Put Willem Dafoe in there in the
yeah,
in the dub.
I know that apparently at the time, and I think this must have been a very uniquely, like, uncomfortable experience for everyone involved, but, like, it was, like, apparently, like, Hayao Miyazaki, Goro Miyazaki, and Le Guin, the author of the Earthsea books, kind of, like, all sitting together at the premiere, and I can just, like, imagine, like, both of them, like, watching, watching it for the first time, and being like, okay, so...
yeah.
My son's not ready, and then also you fucked up my books. But apparently, like, and I don't know if this is insulting or not insulting, but, like, Le Guin basically said, like, these are so different from my books, like, the idea of what my books are going, like, for, that it's, like, almost not an adaptation. If that makes sense. It's like, so it's weird. That sounds pretty backhanded, though.
Yeah, but I think, in some ways, like, okay, it didn't work for Earthsea, but adaptation can be very loose, and you know, a lot of Ghibli stuff is adaptation, and very loose adaptations at that. And you know, conversely, sometimes you get anime adaptations that are just page for page, panel for panel adaptations, and it's just boring. So, you know, I'm trying to think of like a good example. I don't know, like the new Scott Pilgrim series. You know, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but it's like, it is Scott Pilgrim, but it's, you know, not like Scott Pilgrim that you've ever seen before. And honestly, like, you can't really, I don't think you'd get as much out of it if you haven't seen the original film or read the comics. Like, it is an adaptation, but it is an adaptation in a way that, you know, is completely different from the original.
I think it's one of those situations where adaptations are forgiven if they're good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, it's like, you know, you are as good as, right, like, the end product.
Yeah, and kind of like tying it back to Earthsea, like, no one really cares about nepotism if you're good at it. Like,
yeah, it's positive.
you know,
nepotism.
like,
Yeah.
like,
Facts.
you know, like,
that's so right.
True.
like Jack Quaid is like a, you
great
know,
example. The Quaids.
Rashida Jones,
the freaking
Michael Douglas.
Oh, you're right, dude.
Yes, the Gyllenhaals, Drew Barrymore.
Help me, the Swedish acting family, Bill Skarsgård, the Skarsgårds.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Skarsgård. Yeah.
All the Skarsgårds.
And most
I mean-
recently, I mean, Jack Nicholson's son has been starting to be in a bunch of things.
What?
Really?
What is this? I don't know this. This is interesting.
Yeah.
Really?
But
I
it just
mean,
shows that it.
I don't want to go too far away from
Okay.
Studio Ghibli, but
All
you
right.
look it up. You look it up. You're gonna be like, oh my god, wait a second, that's him.
Okay, that's
Okay.
interesting because I know Jack Nicholson to be a very old man. Is this like an older? is this a young son or is this?
Yeah, do you want to hear something like recent that he was in?
Yeah,
Have you
just
guys
one
seen
thing.
it?
Satiate my hunger, and then what's
Fortnite movie.
it? Yes!
That Fortnite.
Smile 2.
Whoa!
I was about
Okay.
to say Five Nights at Freddy's too.
Oh, let's go.
I
Let's go.
guess I wasn't that far off.
Finally.
Yeah, he's in Smile 2. I mean, he's also in Novocaine that just came out this
Jack-
year.
Oh, I just saw that with Jack Quaid, another nepo baby.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jack Quaid is appearing all over the place. But yeah, nepotism didn't work for Ghibli. Or has
No.
not seemed to have worked so far. You know?
Well, like Goro is very business minded, and you know, ignore Poppy Hill, but like, you know, he's the one that kind of pushed them for CG for Earwig. I mean, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ronja, the Robber's Daughter. That was a co-production with Polygon Pictures, which was a 3D TV show. I mean, he was kind of like, yo, Ghibli, we got to catch up to the modern age. Like, 3D anime is where it's at. And like that was a big thing in the 2010s for anime. I think you finally had a lot of studios trying to, I don't know, try to mimic the Disney Pixar look.
Right.
And it was a very weird transitional period, and I think there's only one studio that really nailed it right and is like the only one that consistently uses CG, at least for like characters. I mean, a lot of anime use CG for like mecha and spaceships and
Right.
you know, weapons, fight scenes, even a lot of 3D and compositing, you know, all that sort of stuff. But like, you know, it didn't really catch on. It's almost like AI, you know, it's kind of like this just trend
Yeah,
that everyone
trying
needs to
to
get on
adapt.
board with. So,
Everybody wants to look like Miss Incredible. That's what it was.
that,
Everybody
yep,
wants to look like
that's
Mrs.
it.
Incredible.
Yeah, they
I
wanted
need
a
to
Ghibli
mention
film
this.
for that.
Because as I was looking up to show, like, say, like, the Jack Nicholson, son Ray Nicholson's movies, do you guys know what his first movie was that he was in?
Jack Nicholson or his son?
His son.
Was it a Ghibli movie?
That'd be crazy.
It was not,
That would
unfortunately.
be insane. That would be
Crazy.
insane. Yeah.
It was the
think I could-
Benchwarmers.
No way.
It all comes back to Adam Sandler.
Wow.
He played
Uncut
Kid
Gems.
Catcher #1, game #2.
You know, Uncut Gems is kind of like an Adam Sandler movie when you think.
Oh,
no,
no.
wait.
Oh, dude. Really? Would you explain
The connection.
the fantasy elements of of being
Well,
a
just good movies.
yeah, sure.
It's the only connection.
Yeah, there's no big connection to it, to Uncut Gems with like Spirited Away or.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're
I
about
mean,
the downfalls of man and human
Yeah,
follies and
for
greed.
sure.
Powerful.
The greed.
It's powerful.
And
Yeah.
sports
And
gambling.
Kevin Garnett
And
is
sports gambling.
Every great Ghibli film has the sports gambling scene. I mean, who can forget in Grave of the Fireflies when they're trying to sports
I
gamble to
remember
save their
that.
lives.
I remember that.
Or when Chihiro needs to sports gamble against No Face.
I remember that.
Chihiro bet $1,000 on the Jets.
The Jets.
Bad move.
Yeah. Or Kiki's Delivery Service, where she has to gamble on the sports game to get back the black cat stuffed animal.
What?
There we go.
See, what would
Man, that's quite a gamble.
what would be okay? What do you guys think would be the best Adam Sandler movie adapted into a Ghibli movie?
Oh, I know
That's
it
a
right
terrible
away.
question.
No,
Oh, I know
it's
it
a
right
really
away.
good question.
Hold on. I know it right away.
What
What's
is
the
it?
answer?
50 First Dates.
Wow,
All right.
dude, I was
Not to put retrograde amnesia on blast, but
I think the answer's
was gonna
gotta
say
be
The
Little
Waterboy.
Nicky.
Dude, I was also gonna say The Waterboy. Punch Drunk Love wouldn't really add anything by being like in Ghibli. I think The Waterboy would go hard in the thing. Don't be
It's Little Nicky just because that's the only one with fantastical elements. Or bedtime stories, actually.
oh, bedtime stories.
Oh
Let's
my
be
God,
real. It's
bedtime
bedtime
stories.
stories.
Click,
That's
y'all
what it would
forgetting
be.
Click. Y'all sleeping on Click.
Yeah.
Jack and Jill.
Cool.
Well, yeah, I think it would be bedtime stories. I think bedtime stories would be the Adam Sandler Studio Ghibli. I mean, that is very fancy.
Yeah, that.
That's a big.
Yeah, I think that's the right answer.
Nailed
Wow.
that.
Yeah.
See?
Oh my gosh.
Good job.
So to kind of like wrap this up, like put a bow in it, I'm going to ask you guys all this question. I'm going to start with Craig. People listening to this, I'm going to assume, have watched almost all the Ghibli movies, if not all of them,
Yeah.
right? So what I'm going to ask you is, what do you think are 2 Ghibli movies that the audience should watch or rewatch that maybe isn't as rated as it should be, or you think is just it's probably been a long time since they watched?
Yeah, so I'm going to say Wind Rises for sure. I think especially post-Oppenheimer, people would get it more now. And then my more interesting one is going to be, if we're not counting Lupin, everyone should see Lupin, let me make that clear. But otherwise, I would say Yamada's, I think, does not get enough credit. I think visually it's quite interesting. I mean, given the year, and like if you want to talk about 3D animation, I mean the cuts in that film that look like it's 3D but aren't is crazy. And it's just a very good like family comedy, very light, but I think there's a lot going on there that people probably haven't seen and maybe just don't appreciate.
What
And
about
then
you, Mel?
The Waterboy.
Sorry, I was thinking so much about Adam Sandler adaptations, and it gives me. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. What do you think are 2 Ghibli movies that our audience should either rewatch or revisit? Maybe opinions could change on a rewatch.
Interesting. I'm gonna do one for myself and one for the audience. The one I'm gonna do for myself to put a little bit of controversy to rest. I really do have to rewatch Boy and the Heron. I didn't get it. I can tell you that much. This first time. I mean, sorry. Maybe I had some idea of what it was going for. It wasn't super effective on me, but a lot of people are telling me that it's a very good film. Maybe I just don't get it. Maybe I just don't. But I at least need to give it another shot, right? But for the audience, I'm actually going to recommend, and just because I can, this is the power wield, Porco Rosso. Just as I think one of the most fully realized Ghibli films in terms of its honestly surprisingly deep characterization. It is very.
It's the cat return.
It is this cat might return. This cat might return. It's gonna do something naughty. But those are my answers.
All right. What about you, Nick?
Man, I think my answers are going to be a little wild, being that maybe there are people out there who, like me, have not seen all of the Studio Ghibli. I've seen half. I think I've seen half at this point. I think that's what I was able to get to for this. So please excuse my... I tried not to have too many strong opinions and too many... couldn't have a generalization this episode, which is why I was asking so many questions. Full transparency. You know, I like to put my credibility exactly where it should be and not no farther.
Oh, wait a second. That's interesting. Okay, no.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to talk about that more. Continue, Nick. Continue.
But I will say, I think I'm struggling to say two, but I think Howl's Moving Castle deserves a rewatch from me as well, knowing maybe I could see what he was trying to go for with the Iraq War. Maybe if I really forced myself into that lens, maybe I could, but I don't think. But I think maybe that deserves it. And then I do think that people should revisit and reconsider the genuine humanity and authenticity of Up on Poppy Hill. Mm-hmm.
Dude, I thought for sure you were going to say Only Yesterday. That's really interesting.
I think that's a similar, it's a similar theme. I liked Only Yesterday, but I think Only Yesterday just wasn't. It didn't click for. I mean, it didn't click for me. So maybe again, that's why it deserves a rewatch as well. But I do think for an audience perspective, watch Up on Poppy Hill from a humanity standpoint instead of this could be a legal standpoint. Let me know what you think.
Well, thank you for the clickbait. Okay, interesting. Yeah.
So for me, I'm gonna do a kind of out there one, and then a little bit more it makes sense why I would recommend this one. My first one is gonna be When Marnie Was There, one we really didn't talk about on this episode.
Yeah,
that's
a good one.
Really? Okay, y'all are Marnie heads. Okay, interesting.
I enjoyed it.
Alright.
Yeah, I think maybe after the first time you could get past the crazy queer baiting that it does.
Yes.
Through most of it, and you could kind of see the relationship between Marnie and I won't say who the other person is because that would be kind of a spoiler, but I would definitely say When Marnie Was There. I really enjoyed watching that one when I watched it, and it was one that I didn't expect to fully enjoy because of you hear the 2010s for Ghibli isn't the best. So I kind of went into it it's probably not going to be great. It'll probably be middle of the road. But I really enjoyed it. And then, of course, it's my favorite Ghibli movie, Whisper of the Heart. I just think there's a lot of humanity within the story. I love the characters in it. I think the animation is great. You could listen to the dubbed or the original with subs. But it's always fun hearing Carrie Ells as the Baron. It's a little... Yeah.
Country road.
I was gonna say when you finish, I want you to make your own arrangement of Country Roads. I want you to
and perform it for your school because just do it. Because that's what she wanted. That's what she would have wanted you to do.
Yeah, that's what Shizuku wanted. I told you guys, I'll tell Craig. I showed this movie in my music class.
Hell yeah.
And we've mentioned it before, but and we talked about it last episode with our friend Dan, who was very into the Studio Ghibli movies. There's a reason why I show them to my students, and it's to expose them to the studio. I could remember when I was probably 7 or 8 in FYE with my parents, this massive FYE store, and they had the different sections, and I could visually remember the covers for My Neighbor Totoro, Princess Mononoke, all those movies, and you just don't see that anymore. I mean, I got this hat in boxed lunch. I think that's probably the most modern example of where you could find Studio Ghibli stuff, unless you're in more niche stores, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Or you go to Japan.
Yeah, or you go to Japan.
Yeah.
Right? But for a
Craig.
US audience, it's hard now, I feel to find stuff within the studio, and I'm glad that HBO Max has
Yeah.
all of the Ghibli movies, with the exception of Grave of the Fireflies, which is on Netflix.
Yeah.
You know, I hope the studio comes out with another movie soon. Yeah, that's what I got with Studio Ghibli. You have any final words, Craig, about the studio that you want to say?
I think we touched on a lot. I mean, I think it's got quite a storied history, and I think it's, I mean, you know, when you're ranking the best anime period of all time, it's kind of hard not to include quite a number of Ghibli films on that list, and
Yeah.
you know, I think it says a lot, you know, to the medium itself and the power of the films.
Yeah, I think we're talking about animated films. There's always this controversy with Disney and how they got involved and maybe took away from Ghibli, or was it just for the money? And I think it's very notable that Miyazaki said, like, the people from Disney and Pixar are very dear to me. And I think there's this, like, layer of respect that Miyazaki shows to, you know, such a huge production company that's not his, that shows the professionalism and respect that Miyazaki had for just the film world, and it makes me respect him and Studio Ghibli even more so.
Yeah. Bill, do you have any closing thoughts on the studio?
It's very interesting that we, you know, kind of like brought up, I guess rather late, like the kind of like weird connection. A lot of people like view like Ghibli as the, you know, Disney of like Japan and everything. I'm gonna go out and say I don't think that's a terribly fair connection.
No, I agree.
They're interested in different things. I'm just gonna like put that forth as a general statement, right? While like, you know, sorry, I might not be, especially these days, Disney's biggest fan. You know, I've always thought that Ghibli is a little more concerned on Ghibli films are entertaining, but maybe they're always kind of searching for a larger thing to say, a larger statement piece. But I think that's also what kind of makes them really so special, right? It's kind of a low quantity, high quality kind of operation.
Yes.
With Ghibli,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Yeah.
I would say like Disney is interested in making money by making art, whereas Ghibli is interested in making art.
And it just, like, you know,
It just makes them money
hopefully-
because they focus on it. Yeah.
hopefully they can continue making art with the money, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like, and no discredit to the actual teams on Disney films. I think they, you know, the creators are certainly passionate, whereas
Oh, my God.
I think it comes down to management styles. Not to say Ghibli is by any means perfect, but, you know.
Yeah, and to that kind of end, it's a little surprising. Like, I've like interacted with people, and this is so strange to me. Like, people that are like, you know, and I don't want to offend maybe anyone on this call, you know, self-proclaimed or otherwise Diz nerds. What's it? Sorry.
Me.
But okay, wow, very bold, you know, I have met quite a few people that would describe themselves as Diz nerds that have maybe seen like one or two Ghibli films. And that's it. Oh, and by the way, it's usually Spirited Away. What's up with that?
Yeah.
What's up with that? I don't know. It's usually Spirited
Because
Away.
Disney helped out with Spirited Away, so
Whoa,
that's a
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
It was my first Ghibli, y'all. All right, and I was a Disney nerd. That was me. You're talking about me.
That's funny.
I know him. Of course, I know him. He's me.
I think there was some weird connection thing where that was the first new film released after Disney acquired the distribution rights. I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's why there was like a lot of like, oh, we're really gonna push this, and like that real kind of second, you know. Wow, people talk about like golden ages in Disney. It's weird. It's not like in a lot of ways it feels like Ghibli's never had a really bad phase. I would say there's lusters. There's parts where it's a little more lustrous than others. I think we mentioned the 2010s being a little crazy in that regard. You know, especially with like, you know, the kind of closing parts. But yeah, no, I'm excited for the future. I know this is a pretty long-winded kind of conclusion, but that's okay because you know, the wind rises. And hopefully Ghibli will also continue to rise.
Well done.
Wow. What a
Well
way to
done.
end it.
Yeah. There you go, guys.
Excellent.
Stick with me. You'll get very generalized takes about incredibly precious things to people. So there we go.
Yeah, Bill, I wanted to ask you, because I know we talked about this last time. Did you end up watching Secret World of Ariadne?
Okay, so dude, this is the really funny thing. That is like literally. Sorry, I was thinking about this the entire time that we were kind of talking about. It was kind of stewing in my mind. I was like, crap. I really should have watched Secret World of Ariadne
It's fine.
because Ryan, this is so painful to say. Whisper of the Heart was pretty good. We could.
Oh, pretty good.
Pretty good.
Okay.
Pretty.
But sorry, I'm under the understanding that you're like a mega fan, Ryan. And
I thought you were gonna say pretty not great.
Yeah,
And
that's what I
gonna
was
be like,
saying.
pretty.
no.
It's pretty good. It's not my favorite Ghibli film. And
Yeah,
I feel like
I honestly don't think it's gonna be a lot of people's favorite Ghibli film.
yeah. Sorry.
No, sorry.
No, honestly, my biggest thing, the brain rot that I have to stay away from is, like, Ghibli movies that I don't like, giving them mean names, you know?
Oh, yeah.
There's a very obvious one for Whisper of the Heart, but I won't go there. And, you know, it's not my fault that you thought of it just then. So, anyway, yeah, it's not that bad, but, yeah, maybe, I will not be rewatching particularly soon, so, but it was pretty good.
All right, and then
Sebastian-
Craig, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I watched like a different anime from a different studio that I wanted to hear your opinion on very quickly before
Yeah.
we finish. I watched Weathering with You.
Whoa.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on
I
it?
mean, it's not Shinkai's best film. It's probably Your Name, but I liked it. I enjoyed
yeah,
it. It's different.
I was gonna say that is literally my thoughts. I liked it.
Sorry, Ryan,
It's different.
have you seen Your Name?
No.
Oh, dude.
Oh, you should see Your Name.
Yeah. Like, god darn. I unironically, like, I remember seeing, like, watching Your Name for the first time. It was, like, a weird situation where, like, I had, like, nothing to do around my house in college, and everyone was gone. Like, it was, like, some weekend where, like, a lot of people were, like, off, so I actually watched Your Name in my, friggin' college house alone. Big mistake. Very, very emotional film, honestly. And a lot about, like, misconnections and the things that should happen versus what actually happens. Very interesting. By the way, sorry, and I'm gonna definitely mess up his name. Sorry, Craig. Who directed Your Name?
Makoto Shinkai.
Makoto, I remember. Shinkai. By the way, incredibly concerned with those concepts. Like, literally pretty prevalent in most things he touches. Very focused as a director in telling those kinds of stories in a good way. But yeah.
Yeah. I think this is a good place to end it. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Craig, of course, for coming on, being here, being our historian, giving us a lot of information.
Yeah, thanks guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome
fun.
guest, Craig. Thank you.
Yep, of course, like we said at the beginning, once we talk about Travis Scott, we have got
Wow.
you.
I learned actually in the course of this conversation today is the 10-year anniversary of Rodeo,
No
and
freaking.
I just saw
Yeah, I planned it.
yeah, of course he's re-releasing a 10-year anniversary vinyl for $200. You can buy the Travis Scott action figure.
Oh my god.
God darn it.
And if you buy the Travis Scott meal at McDonald's, you get $5 off. Of
The
Oh, of course.
tell him Cactus Jackson.
Yeah, of course.
I had a really, not to prolong this or anything, but I had a really surreal experience where my dad watched the Astro World. There was like a documentary about the whole situation, and so like I just had my dad casually like texting me about like he's like, you know this Travis Scott character, you know, like, and I'm like oh god, this is like so horrible. This is so like oh god, do not let boomers touch Mr. Scott, but yeah, very interesting.
Oh my gosh. And on that note, as well. Thank you, of course, Bill and Nick, for being here. Next episode is big number 50. So,
oh my gosh, right.
Lordy, lordy.
yeah, be on the lookout for that.
Oh.
50
You know,
first
we
dates,
might
50 first dates.
50 first dates.
50 first dates with the Blair Witch.
Truly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So that is, like we said, that is going to be the episode, is the Blair Witch. Might give us a week or two to release this one. It's gonna be, we're gonna try to make
We
it
got a
up,
lot of prep for it, yeah.
make it a big episode. So be on the lookout for that. After episode 50, guys, we're back to just doing whatever the hell we want.
Yeah,
We're
we
free.
do whatever the hell we want.
We're
Not
free.
that Craig, not that this isn't whatever the hell we want. Craig, we're so thankful
Thank
for
you.
your knowledge.
Yeah,
No,
I
we
mean
enjoy
more
it,
like we're going back to roots, baby. Did we not post a live yet? I don't think we posted a live yet that we watched. So little tidbit there. Watched a movie that was requested by someone on the
did.
TikTok.
We had a commenter suggest we watch it, and then did not make a suggestion as to whether it was good or bad. It was just the title of the movie, so that was nice because it was bad. Anyway,
It is pretty powerful to just be like, oh, you should watch this movie. It's like, oh, why? It's like, just watch it.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I respect that play. Like, okay, you got my attention, you know?
yeah. So
Yeah. Well, like I said, thank you again, everyone, for listening, and always remember, Chihiro went sicko mode in the bathhouse.
Oh, of course.
Wow. This,
Bye, everyone.
that's it.
This is beautiful.
See ya.
This is beautiful.